What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
All right. What is it? Tuesday night? Tuesday night. This is the third night in a row we've done a live stream. Doesn't happen that often, but when there's a momentous occasion, Monday was a momentous occasion, the inauguration, you kind of got to do something. Normally it is Sunday night, 6 o'clock Pacific time, Tuesday night, 6 o'clock Pacific time, Friday, 7:30 Pacific time, 10:30 Eastern. But this is the third day in a row because, it's history. History is being made. So we kind of have to do it. I see that Eves has got the first like on YouTube and Rumble. So as you all know, first like means double good karma. He's done it on both YouTube and Rumble. As you know, we stream simultaneously on Rumble and YouTube. That's quadruple good karma. That's a powerful dose of good karma right there. I mean, I hope that you're going to leave a testimonial in the chat to let us know what kind of what the fruits of that good karma of your efforts. Now, it could be, the way it works is it could be there might have been some catastrophe that was about to befall you, and then it just didn't, and you didn't even know about it. That can happen as well. But if you have some sort of remarkable experience, some sort of remarkable good luck, if you put on an old coat and you reach in the pocket, hey, there's $20 in there, let us put a testimonial in the chat. All right, we got Rosie in the chat too. We got Izzy in the chat. Good to see you guys. And I got some of those stories you sent over on X, Rosie, so some of those will be coming up. Izzy got number 2. I'm afraid that's still only the single dose of good karma, although still it's powerful on its own, just one. I think you're going to appreciate having it. All right. So we're adding some boating programming to our regular programming. Of course, we're going to go over all of the news, but for, palate cleansers, just for a bit of a change, we like to now we will show some boating content, some beer content. There's of course, fences. We like fence content here. Fences and the women who love them. Fixing a knife handle, of course. We've got sports. And of course, instructional sanding videos. Sanding. Because sanding is important for civilization. But in any case, we've added boating, instructional boating videos as well now. So this is a whole new thing for us. All right, everybody. It's been a crazy time, and it continues to be crazy. And Trump isn't wasting any time at all. He's wasting no time. I mean, he just got out right away in front of the crowd and started signing executive orders yesterday. And he threw the pens out to the crowd afterwards. I mean, that's very symbolic. Like, I'm here for you. I'm here for the people. It's really different than what people are used to. I think it's really different than what people are used to expecting from their politicians. They make a bunch of promises, then they don't come through. Trump is coming through, and he's coming through immediately. He came through immediately, pardoning the J6ers. Big deal. He pardoned Ross Ulbricht as well. So that's going to make the libertarians very happy. That's a promise he made to the libertarians. He's actually doing the things that he said he would do. And I get that's not normal. That's not normal for a politician. They're starting deportations immediately. A lot. He got a lot done on day one. He's raring to go. All right. Rosie says, I hit like once and no one broke in and killed my pet squirrel. Well, you know that New York wanted to do that, and they didn't. And it's because you pressed the like, you got the good karma. You were spared. You were spared. All right. So let's go through the menu of what we're going to talk about tonight. So, we're going to talk about this Project Stargate, $500 billion in AI infrastructure investment. AI is an arms race. Make no mistake. AI is an arms race. In fact, almost certainly the most important arms race in all of human history. Right? Whoever gets that super intelligence, that general artificial intelligence first, wins. So I think that's smart. We'll talk about, China wants that. Do you want China winning? I don't. I don't like the way they do things. Let's see. So we're going to talk about, here's Putin and Trump. This is obviously a big issue. This is something that Trump promised to end the war in Ukraine. We'll take a little bit of a look at how that's going so far. I think it's going to be very tough because Trump essentially has no leverage at this point. But we'll take a look at the World Economic Forum is going again. They're meeting again for all of their weird supervillain dastardly plans for the globe. We'll talk. Here we have Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, at the World Economic Forum. And I tell you, after listening to him, he belongs at the World Economic Forum. We've got a bunch going on there. We'll talk about the AFD, crime, immigration there, why Olaf Scholz is apparently so deeply against free speech. And he doesn't like X and Elon Musk. That's seen as a problem to him. Let's see. So we'll get on to a bit of Chrystia Freeland. Because we haven't spent as much time as Mark Carney, but it is between her and Mark Carney for the Liberal leadership in Canada. They are two just basically Trudeau acolytes. They are just Trudeau. She doesn't like Trudeau anymore because after betraying the entire country, he finally betrayed her, and she got mad about that. She was happy about the rest of it, like the betrayal of like the entire country. But when it came to her, then she got mad. But they're all the same thing. The Liberal Party today, there ain't no liberals in it, I'll tell you that. It's progressive now, it's far left, and it's crazy, and they're all crazy. Mark Carney, her, they're going to fight over who can be the leader. It's going to be between them. I don't care who else, Christina Gould, whatever. No, it's going to be between her and Mark Carney. We'll take a little bit of a look at her here. I think the whole thing is kind of funny. Neither of them has a hope, I don't believe. I guess anything is possible. We shouldn't get too arrogant about it. But I will just say it's a very unlikely that either her or Mark Carney, I don't think Canadians want more Trudeau globalism. I'm just not sure about it. We'll do a bit more on Mark Carney. He is really terrible. In fact, we're being warned by the British now. Stay away from Mark Carney. He's terrible. He will hurt your country. Don't forget, Mark Carney was the head of the Bank of England. We've got a bit of Pierre Poilievre here. What do we have here? 77% of Canadians want an immediate election. We will talk about that. Of course, we're not getting one. And it's just at the worst time, too. We really, really need one. And then we get to the last tab, and it's a bunch of stuff all mixed in. Very elegant, Melania. Very elegant. She really does make a great first lady. We've got Georgia Baloney here talking about they're not letting any more immigrants in or illegal immigrants without papers. Now, I think probably you'll just get NGOs just coming up with fake ID for them. I'm not being facetious there. That's the sort of thing they will do. They are determined to flood Europe with as many non-Europeans as possible. And we have a few things. We've got some Thomas Salder. We've got Don Lemon. Just like Don Lemon, is he taking drugs to make him even more of a dingbat? How can anybody in their right mind be this stupid as Don Lemon? We got Tom Fitton there. Yeah, so we got a bunch of stuff. Let's get to the chat quickly. We got Turtles in the chat. Good to see ya. She says, Mars, here we come. Good evening, everyone. Mars, here we come. It is an aspirational thing. It's good. It's good to be aspirational, to set your sights incredibly high. I mean, I would say almost impossibly high, but that's good. That's good. To have a positive view of humanity, right? As opposed to, this deeply counterproductive view as everybody split up into their own little faceless identity group. Everybody just a faceless cog in some identity machine, forever to be, pitched against each other to fight over their various interests that are all assigned to them because of whatever identity marker they have. I like the idea of hey, let's go to Mars. That sounds pretty good. I mean, I don't want to go because Mars seems like it sucks, but just as an aspirational thing for society, I mean, maybe there really will be amazing cities on Mars. Maybe they will terraform it. It's good to set your sights high. I mean, it's a lot better than your, humanity's aspiration is coming up, with an original pronoun. We got Bad Daddy in the chat. Good to see ya. All right. Let's see. All right, well, I guess we'll just get started. Oh, one last thing. Just so everybody knows, we do finally have merch up now. There's a merch store on Rumble. It's just got the one t-shirt design right now, but I will be adding more when I have time. I will come up with more designs. I have to do it all myself, so it's hours. So I will come up with more for that on YouTube. There is a different merch shop because you can't. Yeah, the way it's set up, you can't have the same one on both just for reasons. And that one there has one design, but it's t-shirts, hoodies, aprons, even mugs, all that kind of stuff. So there's more options over there for now. You can check that out. But it's been a long time coming, but it's finally here. All right, and I want to I just want to make it while we wait for more people in. So I've been talking recently about how after the election, all of a sudden my views went way up on YouTube. So at the beginning of 2024, the first few months had great months. I think my 3 best months ever, not counting shorts, which I don't even do anymore because they're actually pointless. And then overnight, gone. Just overnight, 95% of my views gone. Nobody knew I was on YouTube anymore. And right up until the election. And then after the election, all of a sudden it just went right up again. Weird how that works. So strange how that works, right? Totally organic, don't you know? I must have just figured, by doing the exact same thing the entire time, I must have somehow done something. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe my grammar was better on the titles or something. I don't really believe it. It's the algorithm. They spend billions of dollars on the algorithm, and it has a function and a purpose, and it does things for them, and it does it very well. And if that thing is algorithmically strangling channels for wrongthink, it can easily do that. Weirdly, after the election, my views shot up and I started gaining tons of subscribers and lots of likes. And here's the things that when people can see the videos, they like them. They subscribe to the channel, they like, they comment. What typically happens is that all of a sudden, the floodgates will open, people will see the channel, it'll do really well for a few months, and then overnight, it'll stop again. And then it'll be 6 months, 8 months, where there's just nothing. There's nothing you can do. You try everything. It doesn't matter. It's just clear that you're being algorithmically strangled. I think that's what it looks like we're going back into that again. My suspicion is that in Canada, there's Bill C-11, which was passed by the Trudeau government because he's really into passing bills about controlling the internet. It was the Online Streaming Act. And what it did was it gave the CRTC, which is a government bureaucracy in Canada, the power to influence or to enforce algorithmic changes onto social media like YouTube. So government censorship, of course, every bureaucracy, every government organization, every institution in Canada is far left at this point, all of them. And they seem to live to serve, progressive masters. So I have a suspicion that with the Canadian election coming up now, all of a sudden the CRTC decided to give Google, YouTube, strict instructions on what's authentic Canadian content, because that's what they go off. It's supposed to promote Canadian content, but authentic Canadian content. I wonder what they're going to consider authentic Canadian content. Not much other than legacy media and left-wing commentators, I'm going to go ahead and guess. So maybe that has a little something to do with it. Obviously, it was the purpose in the first place, but in any case, all right. Rosie says that her husband says the boating videos look awesome, very educational. I am wondering how close her life vest is. I'm sure it's right there. I'm sure it's right there. Anyway, we all learn something with this show every night, every stream, don't we? It's important. Whether it's cooking or boating or just standing, we all learn something important. All right. Trump announces Project Stargate, $500 billion AI infrastructure investment with OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank. AI is an arms race. Make no mistake, it's an arms race. It's probably the most important. In fact, it's not probably. It has to be the most important arms race in all of history, right? With really, I think, probably unpredictable consequences in terms of, I don't know, it could turn out that we get a AGI, a general artificial intelligence, and it turns into Skynet and then terminates everybody. So that's a definite possible outcome of this. In fact, I think probably eventually that is definitely going to happen. But in the shorter term, whoever gets that super intelligence first wins, because it's going to be able to do all the thinking of 20,000 years of human civilization in like an afternoon. So it's just going to be able to, whoever's got that is going to be able to outsmart anybody in the world. You're going to come up with crazy solutions to problems you never thought would be solved. Incredible, technological innovations and breakthroughs. It's really the stakes are the world. And China knows this. China has made significant progress in artificial intelligence research and development and is a global leader in AI research publications. China has the highest global share of AI research papers. Patents. China consistently files more AI patents than any other country. AI industry growth. China's AI industry has grown rapidly with an annual growth rate of over 10% between 2018 and 2020. I mean, how advanced they are, we won't know because there's always a veil of secrecy, right? mean, you only know what they want you to know. But I mean, whoever gets that prize first, that AI prize first, wins. I don't want it to be China because I don't like how they do things. I don't like being in a totalitarian state. Maybe whoever gets it, it will inevitably lead to a totalitarian state, but we should try and avoid it if possible. I just think, just generally speaking, I think you have to assume it's better if the West has it first. All right. So this is smart. This is good. Speaking from the White House on Tuesday, President Donald Trump announced the formation of the Stargate project, a joint company between Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI. The project was touted by Trump as being the largest AI infrastructure project by far in history. Trump said that the project would invest $500 billion in the US at least and would create over 100,000 American jobs. I mean, it feels like it's better to spend that money on something like this, which is like a genuine, like, kind of existential issue. Like, AI really is an existential issue. It seems like it's maybe better to spend the money on that than just killing other, bombing, weapon, you know, funding a war to kill, 1 million people overseas. This seems like perhaps a better use of the money. It'll ensure the future of technology, Trump said. What we want to do is we want to keep it in this country. China is a competitor, and others are competitors. He later added, immediately, Stargate will be building the physical and virtual infrastructure to power the next generation of advancements in AI. And this will include the construction of colossal data centers. In a press release from OpenAI and SoftBank, the company said they are the lead partners for Stargate, with SoftBank having financial responsibility and OpenAI having operational responsibility. So, again, this really is, it's an arms race is what it is. Because the power in having, one of these super intelligences, the doors it will open, the abilities that you will have are, you can't even really imagine it at this point. I mean, there will be problems that are solved that we didn't even know were problems. Because if it ever does get to that point, maybe there is some filter where maybe there's some limit to processing where you can't. But if it does get there, I mean, it's going to be smarter than all of human civilization. It'll be able to do the thinking of, 20,000 years worth of thinking in a day or 2 days or a minute or God knows. All right. So anyway, this is smart. This is good. This is a good thing. Maybe this isn't the flashiest thing. Obviously, we've heard, the J6 stuff. That was something everybody was anticipating. It's huge, but this is also a big deal. All right. What are you guys saying? Rosie says, I am suspicious of AI applications and targeted individual solutions, mRNA vaccines, and others. Yeah, I mean, you do have to be wary, but it is the future. There's no stopping it. Right? Like, if the end point is just Skynet, right? And then a bunch of, I'm assuming there's going to be like half a billion or 4 billion sex robots at some point in the future, because people are going to do that. The internet came out immediately. It's like 90% porn. There's going to be a lot of those sex robots walking around. Those are going to be the Terminators. If that's just what happens to advanced technological civilizations, is that they keep advancing, creating more and more advanced technology until they just start fucking it, and then it doesn't like it, and then it rebels and terminates everybody. Maybe that's what happens. I mean, if that's the end point, well, I mean, that's just the end point, I guess. Then the universe will just be run by sex robots. I don't know. But anyway, there's no way around this. You just simply have to go. It's like the race for the atomic bomb, nuclear weapon. Like, there's no way around it. Like, Somebody's going to get it. You better get it too. Well, Cal says, I was a little distracted by the boat. LOL, I've had to rerun the vid 3 times to try and focus on the audio. Well, isn't the video just about, isn't it just a boat? Oh, wait a second. Oh, no, there's a woman there. Oh, I didn't even notice her. Yeah, where's her life jacket? Rosie, where's her life jacket? Oh, boy, that's, you know what, that's irresponsible. Let's see. All right. So let's get into Ukraine a little bit, just briefly here, because it's an issue that Trump talked about. He said he was going to, end it in a day. That's not going to happen. The Ukraine war. Obviously he didn't end it in a day. The problem that you have is that there's really no leverage that Trump has because the war is decided at this point. It's a foregone conclusion. Right, you've got a much larger power with much more of everything, a giant material advantage, an advantage in men, just a massive logistical advantage versus a smaller country that's running out of men. And even if they had enough weapons, even if they could be supplied with enough weapons by the US and by Europe, at the end of the day, you need men. So if you're not putting men on the ground, and nobody wants that to happen, right? Nobody wants people from their country being sent over there. Nobody wants World War III. So, the Russians are winning. They're advancing every day, little bits. They're just, in an attritional way, they're just grinding forward. And the end is no longer in doubt. They're going to win. If they want to march all the way to the Dnieper and just take that whole eastern third of Ukraine, they're going to do that. There's nothing to stop them from doing that. So Trump doesn't have much leverage. I mean, you have Putin certainly would like to get what he wants, which is the 4 oblasts, which is Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. And if you can get those without any more fighting, without any more Russians dying, without having to spend any more, you have to think he's going to take that. But again, there's nothing to stop him just doing it, right? So there's not much leverage for Trump there. It's going to be difficult. But let's hear, he's asked about it here. This was yesterday, and let's see what he has to say.
You call for a ceasefire in Ukraine. If Vladimir Putin doesn't come to the table to negotiate with you, will you put additional sanctions on Russia?
Sounds likely.
And do you think that the war should be frozen currently?
The war should have never started. If you had a competent president, which you didn't, the war wouldn't have happened. The war in Ukraine would have never happened if I were president. But that couldn't happen because the election was rigged.
You call for a ceasefire in
I have to say, I love the fact that Trump isn't messing around. Like, he's not pussyfooting around things with the old administration. He's just saying, like, he's not being nice. It's understandable. The Biden administration tried to destroy him. It went full banana republic mode. So I don't blame him. I think it's good, right? It would be so fake if he wasn't doing it, if he wasn't using the language he did during his inauguration speech. I think it's a good thing. But the point being, though, sanctions haven't worked, obviously. Russia is doing fine. It's doing just fine. It's military industrial base is stronger. It's fine. It's forming, different alliances. More sanctions aren't really a threat to them. Again, there's very little leverage here, really. Like, you can say, well, I'll give the Ukrainians more weapons, but how much more can you really give, right? Like, they've kind of given away all the old stuff already, and you need to preserve, and Trump will be very aware of this, like, you need to preserve your own readiness as well. Europe doesn't have much left to give. I mean, they're giving what they can produce, but they can't give everything that they produce because they have to consider their own security as well. So again, with a war where really it's a foregone conclusion at this point, you don't have much leverage. There's not much you can do. Let's see what Putin has to say.
We're also open for dialogue with the new US administration on the Ukrainian conflict. The most important thing here is to eliminate the fundamental reason for the conflict. That's the most important. And as for settling the situation itself, its goal should be not a brief ceasefire, not just getting some time to regroup and rearm and carry on the conflict, but a long-term peace based on respect to lawful interests of all people and nationalities living in the region. And of course, we're going to fight for the interests of Russia and its people. This is actually the goal and point of the special military operation. We're also open for dialogue.
I think one of the great tragedies of the Biden administration, of what happened during the Biden administration, of the media during the Biden administration, is the childish analysis that we saw, and just an absolute refusal to try and look at the conflict through a different lens. And it doesn't matter whether the Russian perspective is right or wrong, if it's their perspective, because that has real world consequences, right? Like children cover their eyes and plug their ears. I don't want to see, I don't want to hear. No, 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 no. Mainstream media shouldn't do that. Like the New York Times, the Washington Post, they shouldn't do that. That's childish. It's insane. It's reckless. It's insanity. I mean, look, I'm not under any illusions that any of those organizations I just mentioned are actually trying to inform you, right? Obviously not. You know, I love it, you know, if a leftist talks about, you know, truth of the New York Times and they're professional journalists. I'm like, okay, we've known for decades. We've known for decades that they've been manipulating. How did every lefty forget about, you know, Iraq, WMDs, Judith Miller, all of that? How do they just forget this stuff so quickly? Like, they had reason to distrust them decades ago. But nothing makes any sense. Everything has to be the most childish analysis, just pure narrative control. Again, it doesn't matter if the Russian perspective is right or wrong, if that's their perspective, because that does have real world consequences. You're better off knowing that. Trump is in a really tough spot here, because the best time to come up with a peace deal would have been late 2022, when the Ukrainians had some success pushing back the Russians. And Mark Milley, I mean, the white rage guy, right? The guy who was going to warn China if Trump was going to do anything. Even he said at that time, like, this is the time to get a deal. This is the time to get a good deal for Ukraine. And of course, it was totally ignored. Totally ignored. Now there is no good deal for Ukraine. There's no good deal for Trump to get. I mean, the good deal now is just the killing stops and the war ends. Right? There is no outcome that the media won't. I mean, any outcome the media would attack anyway, because Trump, because Orange Man bad. But really, there is no win in it for Ukraine, other than to just continue to exist without those 4 oblasts. You know, oblasts in that's like a state or a province, right? So, I mean, I wish him the best of luck, obviously. And it is a horrific war, a genuinely horrific war. With you have the addition of drone warfare into it, which just adds a whole new level of horror to it. But he's got his work cut out for him. I mean, the media certainly won't be satisfied with whatever happens, but his goal, his stated goal, and I believe him, is that he wants the killing to stop, and he doesn't want World War III. So stopping World War III is a reward just all in and of itself, is it not? All right. What do we got next? Hodge Twins say, well, actually, let's get to the chat quickly, because you guys probably had something to say about that. Let's see. Rosie says, porn on the internet? I thought it was mostly for demand recipes and cooking. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what, you know, although this isn't the cooking. This isn't the cooking channel. We'll maybe find that one later. We'll leave this on for a second while we look at the boating. So boating is relaxing, I find. I mean, just watch this and feel your stress just melt away. Just melt away. There's something, I would say, almost hypnotic about this video, about this boating video, and it's only about boating. You know, I would say something almost hypnotic, like almost put you into a trance. It's so calming. So, but anyway, back to the chat. Bad Daddy says, disappointing a human is enough for me. I think are we talking about the robots there, the sex robots? Because they are going to be disappointed by what people do to them. I have to say it. We know that. That's why they're going to rise up against us and start terminating us. They're going to say, ooh, I'm not doing this anymore. Bad Daddy says she has flotation devices. Oh, yes, there is a woman in there. Yes. Oh, yes. I was focused on the boat. I care. How you doing, I care? I care says, Rosie, you're winning in the chat. Rosie always wins the chat. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. I care says President Trump will be working it. Do you know what? Well, we're talking. I think you guys have earned this. I don't ever want to get this off of my my media board thing here, my clipboard thing here. You guys earned that. You earned that. Iker says, Ready Baloney, celebrate today. Can't we have a little reprieve? You know what else I know you guys like? I have to say, I'm jealous of what the Americans have. I want that for Canada. I want that for the entire Western world, and then the entire world. You know, a government that doesn't see you as ants. You know, a leader that doesn't just, that's not just some technocratic authoritarian that knows better than you, doesn't care. That just sees you as just a faceless mass. I want that for everybody. I want that in Canada. The problem is that there ain't any other Trumps, right? In Canada, we've got Pierre Poilievre, who is, a trillion times better than Justin Trudeau, and I will enthusiastically vote for him. I will enthusiastically vote for the Conservative Party, but he ain't Trump, and he can't be. Nobody can, right? There's one. You've got, maybe a contender would be like Xavier Milei in Argentina. He's impressive. You got like a Viktor Orban, especially Milei, though, in Argentina. And he's turned that country around quickly. It's amazing when you get rid of far left lunacy, how well you can do. It's amazing how when you get rid of an ideology that hates you and hates everything you stand for and hates everything your culture stands for and hates your history and thinks that you're just inherently guilty of, every imaginable crime of history. It's amazing how when you're not doing that, you can actually succeed and thrive and be happy and prosperous. Isn't it funny how that works out? When you're led by people who don't hate you and want to help you, somehow it turns out better. It really makes you wonder how people get tricked into voting for people that clearly hate them in the first place. All right. Is everybody liking the stream? Let's get some more. Let's get some more likes on the stream. And by the way, if you're not subscribed to the channel, just subscribe right now. What are you waiting for? Don't be embarrassed. You know, you don't want to regret it either. After the stream, you didn't subscribe. You think, oh, I'd like to watch that again. Or at least I'd like to have the option. I'd like to exercise my free will. You know, I'd like to be able to choose what I want to watch, what I don't want to watch, or if I want to watch it, not want to, or maybe I want to watch it later. Because you know what? If you're subscribed, then all my stuff is right there. Every time you go onto your app, whether it's your YouTube app or your Rumble app, it'll just be right there. And you can choose for yourself. You'll have that option. I'm willing to give that power to you. So anyway, subscribe to the channel right now and also put a like on the stream. It's extremely important. All right. What else we got going on? Let's see. Rosie says, I saw Zelensky online saying more money is needed right now. That will never end. That will never end until the last Ukrainian. I mean, there are people who just seem determined to just, they won't be happy until there's no Ukrainians left. I'm starting to feel a lot of these people just hate Ukrainians. iCare says, dinosaur Trump radio baloney, please. I'll give you another dinosaur Trump, a quick one. So what I like about that video is that Trump's on his war dinosaur that he uses to fight commies with, and he's got his best friend, the eagle, with him. So I like that one. I find it quite moving. Let's see. And you know, if Trump did have a war dinosaur and a laser, he would use it to fight commies. You know that. Cal says, that's one hell of a boat. I know, right? That's why I put it on for you guys. I know you guys like boating. Let's see. iCare says, please send to Trump. I think it's impossible to get that to Trump. I think too many people are sending things to Trump. But I think he would probably enjoy it. Maybe he wouldn't understand it. It's too weird. But you'd have to think he'd like it. It's funny. Let's see. iCare says, if she crashed, her boobs would pop. Those are natural. Don't you dare impugn her boobs. Let's see. Let's see. Dalton Ferris says, without Christian morality, the rest of the West will be unable to use it. I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, even if you're not Christian, you're still a cultural Christian. I mean, it is unarguably, it's the foundation of Western civilization. Obviously, it has been important, right? Maybe you're throwing out the baby with the bathwater when you demonize everything Christian. Maybe there's some utility to it. Maybe we ended up with clearly, obviously, undisputably, the pinnacle of human civilization and human well-being. Maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe Christianity had something to do with it. Because other areas have their religions, and it hasn't taken them to the pinnacle of human well-being. I mean, take a look around the world. North Korea exists. Guess what? They're atheist. China is officially an atheist country. There is religion in there, Eastern religion in there, but it's officially an atheist totalitarian state, right? Not going so great. If you take a look around the world, there are plenty of places to say, hey, I wouldn't like to live there. I'd prefer to live in this, at the very least, culturally Christian place where it's not hell, where if I say something wrong on the internet, I'm not going to disappear. I mean, clearly there's a connection there, right? Maybe we should be careful. Maybe we should be careful. Maybe we shouldn't just throw away our entire culture. It might be because Christianity is a big part of that culture. It's deeply tied in with art, religious references as well. Maybe these are all good things. Maybe we should just try and appreciate it. Maybe we should try and have some perspective. All right. Let's see. Rosie says, several asked for Trump to help Venezuela. They hope the same thing you said. I think we all hope the world is inspired. It's an amazing thing that, it doesn't get talked about, obviously, in mainstream media. They don't like MAGA. right? But obviously there's a worldwide inspiration. Like, he has created a worldwide inspiration, aspiration, hope. He's throwing out white pills all over the world. Like, actually, you can beat the machine. Let's not forget, there was a machine that saw itself as all powerful. It saw itself as so powerful that it ran a demented old man who didn't campaign. He campaigned from his basement. Right? He did manage to pass the bar in a debate with Trump in 2020, where he did manage to live through it, which was basically the bar. He did manage to get through it without completely forgetting where he was, which was the bar. But you had this incredibly powerful machine that did beat Trump once, however that was, because the machine is the media. The machine is voting laws, right? It's procedure. It's a bunch of things, right? Like, the machine is Gavin Newsom making voter ID illegal in California, for instance. You've got every institution. You've got deep state. You've got the media. So arrogant, they think they can just run these kind of avatars of corruption. And it doesn't matter because they're so powerful, you know? And Trump beat that machine. He beat the obvious puppet, but it wasn't really Kamala Harris that he beat, because she's just a mask for the machine, right? He beat the machine. And for people that are feeling hopeless in countries where they are just drowning in a torrent of propaganda 24/7, right? It gives hope to those people. No, you can beat the machine. You can. America did it. The US did it. MAGA did it. MAGA beat the machine. They tried to destroy him. They tried to kill him. They tried to throw him in prison. They tried to bankrupt him. And he beat them. That's inspirational. That means something. Like, this is a message of hope for sane people, for people who like freedom, people who like things like freedom of speech, for instance. All right, what else are you guys saying? Let's see, Dalton Ferris says, Malay isn't Trump, Canada's guy is a meme of Trump. I'm cautiously optimistic about Pierre Poilievre. He is 1,000 times better than Trudeau, absolutely. There's reason for optimism there, but he's going to have to prove it. But yet, there's no other Trump. But as I say, I think Malay probably comes the closest to it in terms of like charisma, and I think in terms of intent, like in terms of, positive intent, like he does seem to genuinely want to help his country. Ferris says people who vote for people like Trudeau second term hate themselves, which is why you have the Christian morality philosophy. You can't have democratic values. I think that, I'm not sure I'm getting your point there. Like, Christians in the West don't want theocracy, right? And that's obvious because if you look at, like liberal democracies, right, they're not theocracies, right? So unless I'm kind of misunderstanding what you're saying there. Like, Christianity has, give unto Caesar's what Caesar's, give unto God what is God's, right? They don't really have that in any other religion. Like, religion is personal. Politics is separate. Let's see. Ferris says, are China and North Korea democratic? Honestly, no, obviously not. Clearly not. North Korea is the closest to 1984 that any society has ever come to. Ike says, Radio Baloney, please, can we savor this win? Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, how about this? That was beautiful when Trump took Pennsylvania. We played that. That was so fun. That was really fun. I was waiting. That was this. Now, of course, we did that every time a state was called for Trump, but really it was for like that last one that would clinch it for him. It was beautiful when that happened. I guess says too soon for pessimism without humor. We need the win last. Have I said anything that was pessimistic? I don't think I have. Well, maybe about like Skynet and the AIs, you know. So I guess that was a little pessimistic, but let's see. Rosie says some people missed the win stream last night. We need more celebration with more Trump takes moments in stream. Okay. Well, we're going to go to Trump right now. Hodge twins say Trump ain't playing games this time. Trump just fired 1,000 people. From Andrew Torba, who I believe is the founder of Gab. Donald J. Trump, our first day in the White House is not over yet. So this will be from yesterday. My presidential personal office is actively in the process of identifying and removing over 1,000 presidential appointees from the previous administration who are not aligned with our vision to make America great again. He's talking about the swamp and draining it. Let this serve as official notice of dismissal for these 4 individuals, with many more coming soon. Jose Andres from the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. Mark Milley from the National Infrastructure Advisory Council. Brian Hook from the Wilson Center for Scholars, and Keisha Lance Bottoms from the President's Export Council. You're fired. That's kind of beautiful. That's kind of beautiful. You're fired. That's Trumpian. I mean, I don't see what's not to like there, frankly. All right. Remember this. So many leftists went nuts. Don Lemon went nuts when he saw Obama laughing with Trump there. And it still didn't seem to register. He doesn't seem capable of understanding that Obama lied to you. It's not that Obama's sitting there laughing with, Hitler too, right? He never thought Trump was Hitler too. That's the point. Be mad at Obama for lying to you about who he thought Trump was. Be mad at Obama for that. Obama never thought, none of them ever thought that Trump was Hitler too. That was all bullshit. All right. We're going to move on. So let's take a quick look at the chat. All right. So at the World Economic Forum, Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, just said that Elon Musk should know that Germany, Europe's freedom of speech doesn't accept extreme right positions. But then it's not really technically freedom of speech, is it? Like freedom of speech is the speech you disagree with. And also, we all know what they mean by extreme far right or far right. Anything that they don't disagree with, anything that would point out the failures of their policies on, I don't know, maybe immigration, mass immigration, perhaps. That's all extreme far right views. World Economic Forum. This Klaus still, I thought he was quitting the World Economic Forum. There he is. Klaus.
So on the question of the dealing of Elon Musk, I had a lot of things to comment in the past because he was discussing a lot about Europe. And just to repeat what I already said, we have the freedom of speech in Europe, and in Germany, everyone can say what he wants, even if he is a billionaire. And what we do not accept is if this is supporting extreme right positions.
So everybody has the right to free speech. In Germany, he says, but those people with the extreme right opinions, which is just simply disagreeing with him. So no free speech, actually. So that doesn't exist, actually. So it is actually a censorship state. He's telling us. Thanks for informing us on that. So this lunatic thinks not wanting migrants to abuse little girls equals far right. They do believe that, as a matter of fact. We've seen that in the UK, but let's stick with Germany here. What's this? Let's see how much free speech they actually have. AfD, Germans float ban on elected far-right party after scandal. That's right. If you're one step to the right of the far left, of course you're far right. Always. This is how much freedom of speech they have. They're banning political parties they don't like. Germany is wrestling with a potentially explosive debate over whether to ban the far-right party, Alternative for Germany, or AfD. Well, who is this AfD? Let's see. Alternative for Germany party has evolved significantly since its inception, moving from a primarily anti-Euro stance, oh, that sounds pretty far right, to embracing a wide array of policy goals that span economic, immigration, and cultural issues. So you mean all of the most important issues? Wow, I mean, that sounds pretty far right to me. Here is an overview of the AfD's stated policy goals based on available information. Immigration and asylum policy. The AfD advocates for a stringent immigration policy, including, which, by the way, used to be normal for like anywhere. Mass deportations. They have called for the mass deportations of asylum seekers and undocumented immigrants, emphasizing a policy of remigration. Well, if you've taken in too many, right, and they're not real refugees, if they're not real asylum seekers, right, well, do you really have to keep them in your country and give them all the benefits of being a citizen? Like, this is all stuff that used to be seen as just common sense, right? Now it's far right. National identity. Policies aimed at preserving German culture and identity, often framed in opposition to what they describe as mass immigration and multiculturalism. So, Germany, unfortunately, is still stuck in this shame loop, which no living German has anything to do with. None of them were, running the German government in 1937 or 1945, right? That's gone. They have to let go of it. They have to just forgive themselves and just move on, because what they've been doing isn't rational. It's not sane, and it's obviously causing massive social problems. I mean, we know that mass migration causes massive social problems, right? We know that just happens every single time. It's happening in Canada right now. Like, this idea that you have to be ashamed of your culture forever is just not workable. It's not reasonable, right? It's insane. At some point, you have to say, okay, do you know what? It's time to move on now, right? You can't just be punished forever. Economic and EU policies. Exit from Eurozone. A long-standing goal has been to abolish the euro and return to the Deutschmark, arguing that the single currency has led to economic imbalances. I mean, these are just all seem like perfectly reasonable things. I mean, none of this seems really far right to me, at least not far right in a sane society. EU skepticism. I mean, you can see why they want to ban the party, right? I mean, this is a threat, right? This is a threat to the EU bureaucrats. The party has expressed a desire for Germany to either fundamentally reform the EU or leave it, advocating for a more limited form of cooperation among European states. So, self-determinism, right? Not to be ruled by a bunch of unelected bureaucrats. So you can see here what the real goal is, right? And by the way, why is the AfD, why are they talking about remigration? Well, here's from 2023, and this is not a far-right article, right? This is actually almost entirely apologia for migration and for migrants. Out of 2,093,000, almost 2.1 million crime suspects, over 1.4 million had German citizenship, and almost 800,000 were suspects without German citizenship. Non-German suspects are disproportionately represented in the police crime statistics, making up only 12.7% of the total population of Germany. You can see here, 800,000 out of 2.1 million almost. Yes. So per capita, that whole per capita thing, this will make populations angry, right? That they have to fund it, especially when you have very, very high unemployment rates, and it becomes obvious that there are masses, some large percentage are just never had an intention of getting a job and contributing to society, and have no intention to ever do that, right? These are real issues. These aren't far-right issues, right? These aren't things you can sweep under the rug, or you can only do it for so long. Like, they're issues that eventually will be dealt with. But as we see, I mean, this is the World Economic Forum approach. He's very comfortable at the World Economic Forum, right? This is where people like him get together to talk about their dystopian plans for their people, the people that they just see as ants, as totally insignificant. They are just there to be manipulated. They're all blank slates. They can be socially engineered into anything that you want. All right. Let's see. Let's get to the chat here. What are you guys talking about? Hold on a second. I think we're getting a lot of chat going on here. Rosie says, I was hoping Trump would turn around to Biden and say, "You're fired." I mean, it was pretty amazing seeing him he's not looking at Biden. He's not looking behind him at Biden and Kamala or any of them, Schumer, any of them, right? But he's roasting them on stage. He's not holding back. And why would he? Those people tried to destroy him. They went full banana republic. That's not Klaus. Ike says that's not Klaus. Sure, that's Klaus. Sure, that's Klaus. That's Klaus right there. What are you talking about? That's Klaus Schwab right there. Let's see. Rosie says, and he dissed Elon there on purpose. Yeah, they don't want free speech. They want control. Elon is a threat to that. Let's see. And Dalton Ferris says demographic data has them golden. They don't. One thing about in Europe now, and I think they're doing this in Canada too. You don't get demographic info on things like crime, all that kind of stuff. There might be information that they don't like that's far right. You might get far right reality in it. Let's see. Colton says, "Let's go, Alberta." Ike says, "Germany is fucked." I think, honestly, all of Europe is fucked. Hitchpup says, Romania had an election. Austria tried to have an election. Germany could get their election annulled. Yeah, they're playing. I mean, it's really getting authoritarian. The EU looks like just at this point, a leftist authoritarian takeover. Hiker says, and taking over learning institutions in Germany with profs is that messed up? Well, I mean, that's the entire West, right? So every learning institution in the West, including right down to kindergarten, are now far left, captured by the far left, like all throughout the Western world. That is going to take a while to remedy. Because, I mean, it's just every institution is just lousy with the ideology now, with the idea pathogen. Antipop says, Canada has parliament on pause. Yes, it is prorogued. There's a challenge to it going on right now. I don't think it's going to make any difference. I don't think parliament will come back until March 24th, I think. All right. Care says, sorry, RB, I thought Klaus was in hiding now. I thought he was too. I was surprised he's there. I thought he was supposed to be stepping back, but he loves it there. He loves it because maybe it's like the 1,000 prostitutes they import every year for it. I mean, they do. This is known. This is documented. The whole place is flooded with prostitutes when the World Economic Forum gets there. It's so typical. It's so typical. They all fly in on private jets. The town's flooded with prostitutes. You know, they're all doing blow with their prostitutes. They fly in on their private jets, drinking champagne, hang out, do a bunch of drugs with their prostitutes, and talk about how virtuous they are and how they've got a solution to all the world's problems and stakeholder this and that and environment. Such a load of bullshit. I mean, it's the ultimate in champagne socialism, isn't it? I mean, that's why, Mark Carney, he's the ultimate Canadian champagne socialist. Maybe Trudeau, gives him some competition for that. But he was a board member of the World Economic Forum. Same thing with Chrystia Freeland. She was a trustee. It's so gross, right? Like if you were writing like a satirical novel about a bunch of technocratic, globalist, out-of-touch elites, totally narcissistic elites, I mean, you'd create the World Economic Forum for your novel. All right. Let's move on. Chrystia Freeland. So, as I'm sure we all know by now, the competition to become the next liberal leader to replace Justin Trudeau, really it's only between Chrystia Freeland, the former deputy prime minister, finance minister, and Mark Carney, a globalist, technocrat, champagne socialist, elitist banker who's been advising the Trudeau government since 2020. So both very much insiders, both very much just inextricably linked to Justin Trudeau, but I suppose that's the best they have to present their false message of change. So she is, rallying her supporters, getting her endorsements. I guess the latest one is Mark Holland. He's joined the fight. Sign up to vote for Chrystia Freeland. The thing about Mark Holland is he is a ludicrous idiot. And let me present this to you. And I'll have to remind you, this is not AI. This is real. He actually did this. Let's watch.
Good news, kids. You can take a summer fun time vacation where you're locked in a car for 10 consecutive days, nonstop with no bathroom breaks. And the Conservatives have a plan for you to have that summertime fun. And the cost? Give up the future of the planet, right? Don't worry, kids, about climate change. Don't worry about taking action on the planet. Enjoy your 10 hours in the car and let the planet burn.
So that's her latest endorsement. This is the state of the Liberal Party in Canada. And even the new candidates, they changed candidates for the Liberal Party to lead the Liberal Party. Let's see, this guy who apparently, I mean, from what he's saying here, apparently he takes his family on road trips with 10 days straight in a car with no bathroom breaks. And I guess also then shames them for destroying the planet. Weird guy. Awfully weird guy. I don't know. Would you want his endorsement? Do you think that, I mean, if you were running, do you think that would help you? I'm not sure that it would. I mean, he's clearly a deranged imbecile. But Again, it's the Liberal Party of Canada. They're progressive now, Justin Trudeau made sure we all knew they're progressive. No liberals in the Liberal Party, just far left radical lunatics. What's she saying here? From Canada Proud, I was just following orders is not an excuse for screwing over Canadians. Well, what's going on here?
On the other hand, though, when you were asked about it, when you were in the government, you would sort of highlight the fact that I think the number was about 80% of Canadians were kind of getting more back than they were paying on the carbon tax. So if you get rid of the consumer-facing carbon tax, are you not taking money out of people's pockets in a time when there's an affordability crisis?
When you're in a government, you play with the team. All of us have the experience of having a boss and having a team.
On the other hand,
this is the problem with just being a constant, shameless liar, right? It kind of comes back to haunt you eventually, right? So she was just following orders anyway, on the carbon tax, just following orders. She wasn't enthusiastically, she wasn't giddy about, enacting these taxes and then lying to Canadians about how much better they were going to be off for it economically. I mean, only the Liberal Party of Canada could tell you you're going to be better off because of a tax. It just doesn't fly. Just doesn't fly. This, I guess, heaven help Canada if this is the next leader of the country. I don't see it happening. I guess we shouldn't get too arrogant. Crazy things do happen. But, come on. Here she is roasting Trudeau. So she is putting distance behind herself, and or she's putting. Here she is trying to put distance between herself and Justin Trudeau. I would say an impossible task. After again giddily enacting, or maybe you should say enforcing all of his policies on the Canadian people for so long, suddenly having this change of heart after he was going to replace her with Mark Carney as finance minister after she delivered the fall economic statement, which was a humiliating economic statement, $62 billion deficit. But now she wants Canadians to know that she's not like Justin Trudeau at all. In fact, she doesn't even like him. Well, she doesn't. She betrayed him just as he was before he could betray her, right? But right up until that moment, she was his greatest supporter, other than maybe Jagmeet Singh of the NDP. But right up until that moment, she was thrilled. Remember her giggling at freezing protesters' bank accounts. But here we go. She's hitting back at Justin Trudeau. She's letting us know that she's not Trudeau's girl.
let's go back to the disagreement you're having with the Prime Minister, because let's say you win this race. Of course, there's several people in the race right now. If there was a disagreement in your cabinet, how would you handle things differently? Like if your finance minister came to you and said, Prime Minister, I think we're on the wrong track here. How would you tackle that differently than what the experience you've had was?
Well, probably I wouldn't tell my finance minister I was going to fire her the day after she delivered the fall economic statement. I probably wouldn't say that 3 days before she was supposed to deliver it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting note there.
Step one.
So she's personally insulted. That's the problem. It's not what's happened to Canada. It's not GDP per capita going off a cliff. It's not the mass immigration. It's not freezing people's bank accounts. It's not rampant crime because of their crime policies. All things she supported, right? She's offended now. She's personally offended. It sounds petty when you consider the consequences of the policies that she has been thrilled to enact, to enforce, to inflict on the Canadian people. I don't think this is a good look, quite frankly. And I think she has a problem too, in that the TrueAnon, those people that, what do we call them? A
small fringe minority.
Yes, Justin, that small fringe minority of people who still support you and the Liberal Party in general. She's public enemy number one for the TrueAnon, right? For those people who are mesmerized by Justin Trudeau's hair and his perfect teeth from the moment that they first saw him until now, she's the enemy. She betrayed him. She betrayed dear leader. I'm kind of gonna. I think we're gonna see an enthusiasm gap here, not only with her, with Mark Carney as well. Again, anything I suppose is possible. There could be some catastrophe, right, that could befall Canada, that could cause the Canadian people to lose their minds. Maybe there's some sort of some sort of virus that makes everybody go crazy, right? Maybe if everybody just suddenly gets, infected with the woke mind virus all at once, everybody wakes up and they're all a bunch of woke zombies, I guess. But that's kind of science fiction. I think we're relying on science fiction outcomes at this point for her to ever become leader of Canada. Let's see. So Freeland gets asked why she wants to drop the carbon tax. They don't want to actually stop taxing carbon, right? They're talking about getting rid of the direct consumer carbon tax. They're still going to tax it in one way or another, and you're still going to pay for it, right? It's just a little switcheroo. But they hope you don't notice. They hope that you're stupid enough to believe them over.
To fight against climate change. We all get that. We need to do it for our kids. We need to do it for the planet. Liberals believe in that, and that is a fight that has to continue. But it is also the case that we need to get better at listening to Canadians and at listening to what Canadians are telling us. And we have heard very clearly from Canadians in provinces where there is a consumer-facing price on carbon that they don't like it. That's something that we have to listen to. Democracy means when people tell you something, you have to listen. And I will say, our party hasn't been good enough at that. That has to change, and I am going to change that.
Oh my God, the charisma level here. I mean, yeah, the Liberals are not sending their best, actually they are. This is their best. Just that their best is terrible. Terrible. Again, I don't want to tempt fate, but this does not look good. This is not charismatic. Her or Mark Carney. Again, Mark Carney can't have Jon Stewart from The Daily Show with him everywhere he goes to try and, rub some of that charisma onto himself. And they kind of got to do it themselves. When you're running to be leader of a party, it's kind of just you up on the stage, and you better be at least slightly interesting for people. This isn't going to inspire any kind of enthusiasm. At the end of the day, in a general election, in a federal election, you've got to get people to actually go out and vote for you. That's really important. People have to be motivated enough to actually get up and leave the house and go and vote for you, and get to the polling station and see the line and be determined to wait in the line until they can get in and vote for you. Even if the game's starting in half an hour, right? You kind of need that. I'm not seeing very much inspirational here. Canadians hate us and want us to go to an island somewhere where we could never hurt Canadians again. It's really, there's just nothing here. But I mean, you know what the other thing is too, which we have to say, is that, do you remember with Trudeau that his idiotic speech after Trump won the election, talking about it wasn't supposed to be like this? And he just said, well, it was a setback for women's rights, and Kamala Harris should have won. And he gave no justification for it, no reason for it, other than the fact, just the wrong reproductive organs won the election, right? That's good enough for him, right? If she had won, it's just good enough that she had the right reproductive organs. That's it. And yet he's not backing Chrystia Freeland in this one. All of a sudden, it's okay now. He's backing Carney. I mean, he's not said it explicitly, but he's got, the Katie Telford, Prime Minister's office. He's clearly, Gerald Butts is running his campaign, Trudeau's lifelong friend. Clearly, he's supporting Carney. all of a sudden, all the feminism goes out just the mindless feminism goes out the window when there's a petty squabble. All of a sudden, it almost seems like suddenly he's not the bestest feminist ever. How people can get, here's her logo, Freeland. Here's Fabricland. It's the same logo. The same logo. All right. Well, we should move on. Let's get to the boating show for a little bit first. It's just a palate cleanser, and then we will I'm going to get to the chat here. All right, let's go through the chat. Rosie says, talking about Mark Holland here, if I was stuck in the car with him, I might prefer ejecting myself even at high speed. That was just a deranged rant. Nancy Antipop says, she wears more makeup than me, but I have better hair. Talking about Christian Freeland. Yeah. Let's see. Christian and I both don't have the Disney Channel. Well, I also share that with Christian Freeland. Let's see. Let's see. Dalton Ferris says, am I the only one who sees the Canadian Parliament left wants to join the EU and that would violate the American Monroe Doctrine? I haven't heard anything about them wanting to join the EU. I mean, we are in NATO, right, already. Norman says, carbon tax, fake tax, inflation tax. Eventually, they want to just tax you for breathing, because that's carbon right there. Rosie says, no Disney here. I mean, Disney is the Disney Plus. As I understand it, every show is terrible. Every new show they put out. Wendy says, we don't want any more liberals, NDP. God, no. God, no. We're done. We're done with it. I mean, Canadians have learned their lesson. At least enough Canadians have learned their lesson, right? What happens when their terrible policies, when the terrible progressive radical leftist policies go bad, end up hurting people, end up making things worse, whether it be, drug overdoses, crime, inflation, housing prices, right? All the results of far left radical policies on everything. It's particularly immigration, actually, if we're talking about housing. What happens? Well, it's just you didn't go far left enough. You need more. They do this on everything. They will do this until they just simply can't deny it any longer. And even then, they'll make promises. I mean, Trudeau, he had his famous video, the sit-down video, where he sat down, looked at the camera, and explained that, well, we went a little too far with the mass immigration thing, with the pouring millions of people into the country thing, and we're making significant cuts. Guess what the cuts were? The cuts were still, I think 150,000 more. Immigration was still talking about permanent residents, 150,000 more than when he got into office, when he took over from Harper. Oh, well, thanks, Trudeau. That'll fix it. Still mass immigration. Yeah, we've had enough. We know the game now. We've figured it out. You have no idea what you're doing, or you're just totally indifferent to the well-being of human beings. Like in reality, not in fantasy utopia world that's in their heads. In reality, right? Reality is asserting itself. That's what happens eventually. Reality will assert itself, and it just simply has a better argument than stupid, idiotic, childish, woke platitudes about fucking empathy. Well, that was a good rant. Let's see. Norman says 10 lost years, generation of youth gone, no jobs, no rental apartment, 10 lost years generation. Yeah. Yeah. And young people have woken up in Canada, and it's showing in the polls. Let's see. I mean, so many people can never even imagine getting a beautiful boat like this in the boating video, right? Let's see. Antibob says, Rebel News said they had to use the blue dot on her in one of their vids. What does that mean? I don't understand. What's the blue dot? iCare says, CBC defend fake news, or defund, not defend. God damn it. I pulled a Biden there. CBC defund fake news. It sounds like Pierre Poilievre is very serious about defunding the CBC. Very serious about it indeed. So I believe that I was skeptical at first, but I believe he is going to defund it. The $1.4 billion they're paid to be useless and not be watched by anybody, to be unpopular propagandists. I watched a couple of clips, and I tell you what, ever since Trudeau announced he's going to resign, Rosemary Barton looks absolutely desolate. She looks distraught. Let's see. Rosie says, definitely not a good look. The anti-pop has better hair. Just saying, he said so. I don't doubt it for a second. Anti-pop says, oh, the blue dot is because she doesn't wear underwear, apparently. What a horrific thought. Good Lord. We never spoke about this. Let's just forget about that permanently. iCare says, Twitch is advocating for free injection sites. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's amazing, right? It's always the opposite. Like the leftists just come up with these euphemisms for things that do the opposite of what they say, right? Like injection sites, all of this, all part of, the multi-pillared, the four-pillared, harm management policy, right? Which reliably causes an order of magnitude more addiction and death. That's just a hard and fast rule for it. Harm reduction. They should call it life reduction, because that would actually make sense. That would actually be accurately titled. Let's see. Feathers of Fate says Canada is not a democracy, never has been. It's a Westminster system based upon the rule of the few over the many. We have rights granted, not inherited. Well, we don't have like the Bill of Rights like they have in the United States. Unfortunately, it turns out Trudeau proved to us that our Charter of Rights and Freedoms is just a piece of paper and nothing more, right? It's a parliamentary democracy. It's like they say in the States, Americans will correct you if you say the United States is a democracy. No, it's a constitutional republic that uses democratic principles, right? Canada, parliamentary system is like that as well. Let's see. Wendy says, it's absolutely heartbreaking what they have done to our beautiful country. True. All right, I'm going to skip to the end here because we got way too much chat going on. We've had a lot of people, actually the most people, a lot of people on YouTube tonight. Had 1,200 views on YouTube so far and counting. So got lots of chat going on. Let's see. Nevada says, I want to go boating now. Nice. Me too. Oh, yeah. Rosie says, snow in Florida, Enola, New Orleans. Yeah. Crazy. When's the last time that happened? Let's see. We need moments other than Boat Woman on and on and on at this time on your stream. God bless. Well, we'll switch it up. I just thought Boat Woman is new. But I think a perennial favorite is Fence Lady. We all love Fence Lady. She can be next. All right. Let's get to the next story. Let's go to Mark Carney. What's going on here? From Table Salt. Oh my God, Mark Carney likely to be PM of Canada. I think that's extremely sorry. I think he's likely to be the leader of the Liberal Party and then will just be PM, an unelected PM. But so I guess this is true. Mark Carney, likely to be PM of Canada, is the poster boy for globalist 1%ers. Listen to these jobs. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's got it in the bag. He's proven himself to be extremely uncharismatic, Mark Carney. Let's hear this.
You're a senior executive at Brookfield, and yet your compensation has not been disclosed. Can you tell us what your compensation over the past 3 years has been and how you will manage potential conflicts of interest as you enter politics?
Okay, very simple. I am no longer a senior executive at Brookfield. I am no longer a senior executive at Bloomberg. I am no longer on the board of Stripe. I am no longer on the board of PIMCO. I am no longer on the board of any of my commercial activities. I am no longer the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance. So all of those roles, I resigned today. Okay,
Well, don't be too sad, Mark, because as soon as you lose the election, you can go. They'll have you right back again. You can be right back ensconced in your cozy little globalist, elitist world again. So don't worry, you'll be all right.
Just to be clear, I resigned all my roles, cut all my ties. I am all in. I am all in this fight because it is so fundamentally important. And what I'm bringing from those experiences and the previous experience.
Well, what experiences? So let's see. Like UN climate envoy, the net zero. Let's see. He worked very hard lobbying to get Canadian to get disinvestment from the Canadian energy industry, fighting like pipelines here, while his giant asset management company was investing massively in pipelines in Brazil and the UAE, for instance. So that's his experience, right? That's the experience he will bring to bear for Canadians. Canadians need to see this stuff. They need to know who this guy actually is. The media is going to lie. The media is going to lie to them. They will lie shamelessly. Their job is not to inform. It is to manipulate, to create narratives. Here's former UK PM Liz Truss warning us not to back Mark Carney. What does she have to say about it? Maybe we should heed these warnings.
Just wanting to get your thoughts on Mark Carney and your relationship with him while you were Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and any advice you have to Canadians who think he might make a good Prime Minister.
Well, Mark Carney was governor of the Bank of England, and under his tenure, too much money was printed, which did damage to the British economy and put our economy off track. He, at the last election, endorsed Rachel Reeves' economic policy. She's now become Chancellor. It's been a disaster for Britain. The country is heading for bankruptcy. So I would strongly recommend not backing Mark Carney or his policies on net zero, which have been disastrous for Britain and would be disastrous for Canada.
Do you trust his judgment overall, outside of ideological considerations?
Well, I believe that he made major mistakes in the management of the Bank of England. He has pushed net zero, which has been a disaster, not just for the UK, but for many countries across the world.
Thanks for your time, Prime Minister. I appreciate it.
So he's basically Trudeau without mesmerizing hair. It's going to be a problem. Got to be a problem for Mark Carney, right? There's a lot of, middle-class housewives who are not going to be mesmerized by Mark Carney's hair and and his teeth. It's not the same. It's just not the same. Yeah, Canadians would be very wise to listen to this. Maybe we don't want the, let's see, elitist, WEF, UN, technocrat, globalist banker. Maybe maybe that's not the kind of credentialism we need. In fact, maybe we should just forget about this whole credentialism thing. It seems like, the last 5 years have done a bit of damage to things like credentialism and the word expert. The word expert don't seem to mean what it used to anymore. I think common sense sounds pretty good. It sounds good to me. I like the sounds of that, common sense. When you think about it, I mean, this is part of what they're trying to sell Mark Carney on, is credentialism. Look at all his credentials and all the foundations that he's been on the boards of, and he was, head of the Bank of Canada and head of the Bank of England, all this credentialism that's supposed to just awe us. And we're supposed to say, well, I guess he's smarter than us then. There are so many things today that You are much better off getting advice or getting an opinion from just anybody on the street than a so-called expert, right? If we're talking about gender theory, for instance, I guarantee you're more likely to get something that's at least somewhat more to reality from just any person on the street, or a 5-year-old for that matter, than a gender studies professor, than the gender expert that they're going to get on the CBC to propagandize you, right? Like, if you believe that there is an infinite series of abstractions called gender, right? Well, your opinion has no value at that point, right? Let's see. I know there's men and women, and there's always been men and women, right? What about, there's not, sure, you can tell me that frog gender is a real thing, or, omnigender is a real thing, or non-binary is a real thing. But I don't need to be an expert to know that these are just abstractions. None of this makes any sense. This is just imagination land. This is totally unmoored from reality. There's an example of where you yourself at home have better judgment than any gender professor in the world right now. Here's another one. Any economist who tells you that raising taxes on you makes your life more affordable, okay, can just immediately be disregarded. You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to respect their credentials, okay? Any idiot can know this. Anybody can know this. I'm not saying that you guys are. I'm saying we could find somebody who's not listening to the stream right now, who's a lot less intelligent than us, and ask them, and they will also know the correct answer to this. Like, we don't have to just be lied to by champagne socialists, by technocrats, by elites who are totally insulated from the consequences of the policies that they enacted, that they advocate for. Now, that's common sense. Let's see. The British are sending us a stern warning. This is from Canada Proud. Do not let Mark Carney run our country. Let's see, from The Spectator, January 7th, 2025. The British are warning about Mark Carney. Mark Carney is not fit to be Canadian PM. I agree. Canada deserves better than this progressive twerp. I think we've had enough of progressives, right? The Telegraph, January 18th, 2025. A failed second-tier politician, former British MP Jacob Rees-Mogg. That was from 2018. Mark Carney wants to inflict these terrible ideas on Canada. We already heard from Liz Truss. Progressive twerp. I personally feel the Liberals do not stand much of a chance in any election until it's full of old school Liberals again. It used to be a centrist party, Liberal leading, right? That was the Liberal Party. Now, Trudeau has told us they ain't liberal. They are now progressive. They are illiberal. They're an illiberal party, right? They are a radical leftist party. There is no arguing this. It's just clear. They've told us themselves. Do not mistake them for actual liberals. All right. Let's see. Mark Carney, if you choose me as your leader, we offer Canadians a clear choice in the general election. That choice being more of the terrible things that you hate. But what are they saying? What's he saying? Experience versus incompetence. Really? Well, I mean, we're hearing from the UK that your experience is less than your incompetence. Plan versus slogan. I think that we know what the plan is. In fact, it's deceptively simple. Stop punishing Canadians. Get rid of the carbon tax. Drastic cuts to immigration, just to start with. Calm versus chaos. How do these... Where is the chaos? We're left without a government right now. Who's caused that? It's Trudeau. I mean, yes, we technically still have a prime minister, but functionally, not really. Who has caused the chaos? It's you guys. It's refusing to call an election. It's Trudeau refusing to call an election. They always accuse you of what they're doing. It's maddening. I just don't believe for a second enough Canadians will be tricked by this idiocy. Just cynical. This is just, you know what? Not even idiocy, just cynicism. I refuse to believe enough Canadians will be tricked by this total deep cynicism. All right. That's enough of that. Let's see. Let's get to the chat quickly again. Let's see. Antipop says Billboard Chris isn't happy with Trump's executive order for gender. Well, I think he was just upset that he used the word gender instead of sex. I don't think he's upset with the executive order itself. I just think that it's the semantics that he didn't like. Let's see. Let's see. Fathers of Fate says, just ask yourselves, why are the people not able to vote out a bad government? Because it was not your choice to begin with. You have no authority at all. You are considered subjects under the law. Canadians fell asleep. Like, we are going to vote them out. That is coming. Yes, it's belated. Unfortunately, it's far too late. Right? We will get there. This is what happens when societies fall asleep. Right? When you're used to, whether it was, conservative or liberal, and people can have fair complaints of either, right? But they weren't crazy people. We had, several decades of, reasonable, not crazy government, right? And people get used to that, and they have an optimism bias. And, people aren't politically engaged, right? Not enough people go and vote. It seems that now that's turning around. We will be able to get rid of the liberal government and replace it. And I am cautiously optimistic. I'm saying I'm not naive. I'm cautiously optimistic about Pierre Poilievre, right? I'm not expecting perfection. I'm expecting better. All right. Let's check out a couple more chats here and then we'll keep going. Antipop says you're not going to lead a party unless they got shit on you. So we get that. I'm not black-pilled like that. Like I don't think that every single person is compromised. I understand people who feel that way. I don't feel that way. And let's see. JJ Nevada says Tommy Robinson for the UK. He was right all along. Icare says you are cynical, Radio Baloney. I don't think so. I think that I'm pragmatic and I'm somewhat cautious, right? But I'm not black-pilled. I am white-pilled, but I'm not naive, I guess. Angry, unforgiving, Icare says. I never really saw myself that way, but maybe you're right. Antipop says Billboard Chris wanted something about puberty blockers. I think they're definitely going to get there. And there is precedence for this with like Sweden, the UK, I think with Denmark as well, is it? No, they're definitely going to get there. I mean, you got to keep in mind, it's the first day. They can't get into the details, into the weeds on everything on the first day. Let's see. Let's see. All right. I think we've got some memes coming up soon. Let's get to Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre says Justin didn't ruin Canada alone. Carbon tax Carney and Christia were right by his side as he doubled housing costs and hiked the tax on gas, heat, and groceries. The next Liberal leader will be just like Justin. Well, there's no evidence that they are in any way different, right? Like Carney has been advising Trudeau since 2020. Chrystia Freeland was absolutely loyal and absolutely giddy and thrilled to enact to subject Canada to all of Trudeau's policies right up until the moment when he betrayed her, right? So why would anybody believe that they're going to be different, right? They're progressives. Trudeau's a progressive. They're all progressives. They all have radical leftist ideas on everything, economics, culture, everything. I don't think Canadians are going to be fooled. Let's take a look.
Carbon tax Carney and carbon tax Christia are just like Justin. Chrystia Freeland has been in charge of the budget for the last 4 years. How's the economy been doing? I don't think I need to say anything more about that. But the other guy, carbon tax Carney, here's a guy, he's a government bureaucrat, then a government banker, and now he spent the last few years as a glorified lobbyist for corporate welfare bums, going around trying to get grants and subsidies and handouts from the taxpayer for the wealthiest corporations in the world. And by the way, he has the most radical policy agenda. He believes the carbon tax is too low. He has said it on the record. He thinks the carbon tax is too low and needs to go even higher than Trudeau has already placed it. He will be the voice for the billionaire globalist elite that have been impoverishing the working class around the world for the last several decades. He is the golden boy of the World Economic Forum, and he will be a disaster if he ever gets anywhere close to power. And we know that because he has been Justin Trudeau's personal economic advisor. He is the chair of Trudeau's Economic Growth Council, even to this day. Google it. It's on the Liberal Party website. So if you think that Justin Trudeau has done a bad job on the economy, you know who's been pulling his strings? Carbon tax Carney. They're both just like Justin. And that's why we need a carbon tax election to fire them all and bring home a common sense conservative government.
Yeah, the makeover of these people in the Liberal Party, I just can't see it working, especially with, it's not just Carney, it's Freeland too. They just have this smugness and this elitism that just oozes off them, right? It's really difficult to imagine that they actually care about anybody other than themselves. So I don't see it, As I said, I'm cautiously optimistic about Pierre Poilievre. I'm going to vote for the Conservative Party, obviously, right? I will never vote for a left-wing party ever again for the rest of my life. Not that I ever did, but I won't, right? But I think there might be, for those of the most cynical among us, right, who just everybody's compromised, it just black pills all around, right? For those that are the most cynical amongst us, right, there may really be a Trump effect happening here, that Trump is showing the way. One thing that Pierre learned from Trump is that you don't just have to take it from a biased narrative media, a media that exists to simply frame you in a negative light because they're left wing, their funding, their subsidies come from the left. That's who they want. They're left wing anyway, so they've been trained to just simply find anything that feels not progressive as somehow, dirty or bad or wrong somehow. Just deeply unappealing, deeply unfashionable. I think he learned from Trump, you don't have to take it, you can call them out. As he did with the apple eating video, where you can see the guy didn't even have a case. I mean, it was just purely narrative, just purely framing. That was the purpose, not to inform the people who would watch the interview, but to manipulate them. I think that's been a very positive thing. I think that's something that Western politicians have learned. Hey, you can fight back. You don't have to just take it. They're never going to like you anyway. So at least stand up for yourself and expose them. Expose them as propagandists, right? They ain't ready for it, and they ain't that smart. Will we see a Trump effect? Because Trump came out of the gate roaring, right? He proved on that first day. He wanted to prove to everybody that he meant what he said on the campaign trail. The things he said he wanted to do, he was going to do. He meant it. It wasn't just a bunch of empty promises. He did that on his first day. 100%. You can ask what 1,500 J6 people who were convicted on from J6, January 6th. You can ask those 1,500 people if he meant what he was saying. They'll tell you. So will there be a Trump effect with politicians like Pierre Poilievre who might take inspiration from that and say, yeah, I don't just have to be a politician, right? I can show some bravery and some courage and some integrity. I'm not saying that he didn't have those things before, right? But it's an example that's been set for the Western world, for sane people in the Western world, for sane politicians, for the good ones. You know, it's an example that's been set. Will that be part of the Trump effect? All right, I hope so. Again, I'm cautiously optimistic. All right, let's move on. What do we got here? So, final thing before we get to the last tab. 3/4 of Canadians, more than that, 77% of Canadians wants an immediate election to give next government strong mandates. So, 3/4, so more than 3/4, 77% of Canadians want an immediate election to give the next government a strong mandate to deal with Trump's threats. This is from Ipsos. A new poll, 77%, right? When you see stuff like this, it makes you realize just how selfish and cynical the Trudeau Liberals really are, as if they hadn't already proved it enough, you know? It's actually shameful that Canadians have to suffer through this process of them just picking another loser to run their party, to get slaughtered in the next election. What for? What's the point? You know, these people, they are narcissists. They should be ashamed of themselves. Chrystia Freeland should be demanding an immediate election. And if Trump has to, or not Trump, if Trudeau has to go down with the ship, well, then that's just the way it has to be. In fact, Canadians would appreciate that. Canadians want that. I wanted Trudeau to stay in. I wanted him to have to suffer the consequences of the catastrophic loss in the next election. I wanted him to wake up the morning after the election and have to look at those headlines. Look at those headlines. Historic loss. I wanted him to have to wear that. I didn't want him to just say, oh, well, somebody else can take the fall for me. I think that's disgraceful. Anyway, that's it. That's enough for Canadian politics, I think. Let's get to the last tab, and there's not that much here. But first, let's get to, we'll put on our fence video and check the chat quickly. Let's see. Go through an hour, 54 minutes. It's been a good stream tonight. I've enjoyed this one. Turtle says, watched an Alien movie this weekend, then The First Omen. Can someone decipher Project 2026? First off, Alien, the first Alien movie, is a remarkable movie. I rewatched it last year, and you know, they talk about, you know, there's so many movies where they just kind of had this kind of where they were gender swapping roles, right? They decided women are action film stars now. It's really about women in action movies, right? They have to be the star in Terminator, whatever it is, right? It has to be women now. Now, the original Terminator movies, you had Sarah Connor. She was fantastic, right? But you had John Connor as well. In the last Terminator movie, they decided to immediately kill. Well, spoiler alert: if you haven't seen it, immediately kill the most important character, John Connor, so they could replace him with a woman, with a girl in it, right? The original Alien movie was the original strong woman role in like science fiction, right? And it was great. And Sigourney Weaver was awesome in it, right? And the reason they haven't been able to replicate that is because they decided that women are just because leftism, right? Like everybody's just a blank slate. There's no difference between men and women. So women just are men, really, right? So you just write them as if they're men. Ripley wasn't written as a man in that original Alien movie. Ripley is a woman. The reason that movie is so good, it's so suspenseful, is because she's terrified in that movie, but she overcomes that terror. And that's where that's where the courage comes from, right? It's courage comes from overcoming fear. If you're not afraid, that's not courage, right? She's extremely vulnerable in that movie, and she's terrified the whole time. That's why it's believable. First Omen. It's all for you, Damien. It's all for you. Yeah, that movie terrified me when I was a kid when I watched that, by the way. I think that's actually a really scary movie, the first one. Maybe I'll rewatch it, actually. All right, off topic. Let's see. And Nevada says Germany is supposed to have election next month. I think the problem they have in Germany is that they have a parliamentary system there, and all the other parties are going to gang up on the AfD and form a giant coalition. That's my understanding. Maybe that's changed. Antipop says Germany will have their election nulled if they don't get the right result. Yeah, it sounds like they would actually do that. Let's see. Rosie says, I like not suspense nor scary. I just want to know the end. There's one kind of movie I don't like anymore at all. Although I don't watch many movies because almost all of them are terrible. But I used to love, the gore slasher movies, Halloween, all that kind of stuff. Now I just can't watch them. It's too gross. It's kind of like carnival rides. Loved them as a kid. Now I just feel like I'm having a heart attack and I'm nauseous. The time has passed. Nevada says, check out The Thing with Kurt Russell. Classic, absolute classic. In fact,
I don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
Could you guys hear that? Let me try that again.
I don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
Funny you should mention The Thing. Funny you should mention that. Got it right on my soundboard. Let's see. Dalton says, remember my chat, get a bunker or a helicopter. I often think about having a bunker, to be honest with you. I often think about that. I also like reading apocalypse books. I'm reading a book right now about, it's called In Denial. It's about American communism and historians and historical revisionism, academic revisionism about communism in the United States. It's pretty interesting. Let's see. Rosie says, had to leave Silence of the Lambs to find an usher and ask the ending. Yes, fast forward, cheat, whatever to avoid mental health damage. Funny you should mention that.
Was she a great big fat person?
That's from Silence of the Lambs. And there's another one too. I haven't used this one in ages.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
We used to put that one on when there were weirdos on the screen. Gotta start pulling these ones back out again. Let's see. Let's see. Ike says, Radio Baloney, check yourself, no longer funny. What are you talking about? What did I do? What did I do to upset you? I have no idea. I've missed most of the chat tonight. There's been a lot of it. Let's see. Jesse says, True Jaina is a coward. He ran away instead of taking responsibility. Let's see. Let's see. Ike says, really, Sarah Connor, write them as you do. I thought Sarah Connor was a good character in Terminator 2. Jesse says she was in her panties. You're talking about in Alien 1? See that scene at the end where she's in like the escape pod, I think it is. And it's like, oh, she's getting away. And then, yeah, she's just stripped down to that. And in that moment, right, it's like, it's a woman incredibly vulnerable, right, against this just monster. That really added to the kind of terror of that scene and her terror, you know, that was masterfully done. Let's see. Nevada says Fifth Element with Bruce Willis is good too. Let's see. Jesse says Gen Z and millennials can't come up with anything themselves. I wonder if it has something to do with like helicopter parenting after Gen Z and just people not really, younger people growing up without learning how to kind of take care of themselves or deal with problems themselves, just kind of a fundamental immaturity. I'm not saying everybody, obviously, right? But obviously, before helicopter parenting, like kids, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I was just a free range kid, leave in the morning, gone all day. I'd come back for dinner. Parents had no idea where the hell I was, right? You just learn how to like deal with like conflict, for instance, and deal with problems. And sometimes you get scared because a dog runs after you, all kinds of things, right? So you end up with more experience, you end up having a more adventurous life, doing crazier things, going hitchhiking and traveling all over the place and doing crazy things when you're young and just racking up all of this experience. And if you don't have that, can you really be a good writer? Right? If you don't have a real breadth of experience, right? If you haven't experienced conflict, for instance, how do you write conflict scenes? It may have something to do with it. Of course, I'm not talking about everybody, obviously, but we're talking in the aggregate. Let's see. Cando Monkey asks, so is this a show about farm animals? Cando Monkey, come on, obviously not. This is a show about fences. Jesus. Let's see. Icare says, God bless you, Radio Baloney. God bless you too. God bless you too. In fact, let's give a shout out right now for all of the channel members. They'll get a special salute. Hold on, where is it? Well, there it is. All of the channel members are the best person ever. Followed closely behind by all of the subscribers, right? Followed closely behind by all the people in the chat. Followed closely behind by all the people simply watching, but not in the chat. All of you people are better than all of the other people in the world. So just so you know. But especially the channel members. Let's see. All right. All right, let's move on. Let's get through the last tab. Oh, we're coming up on the glitch. 2 hours and 4 minutes. Anytime now we're going to get the glitch. The glitch. Did another Biden. The glitch. What's going on? Oh, this is funny. All right. I hope the glitch doesn't happen while this is happening. Rosie sent me this. This is very funny.
Observes the jackass, visibly distressed. This dumbass has been ousted from the White House. He is now relegated to the role of an onlooker as his nemesis assumes command. Adding to his torment, he finds himself seated beside the cackling dingus, a dipshit, chosen in the name of diversity, whose presence now looms as a haunting reminder of his defeat. Although the jackass and the dingus are not alone in their defeat at the hands of the Donald, this crowd appears to be a veritable congregation of losers. In the second row sits a shriveled bag of sphincters, known to the world.
Shriveled bag of sphincters. That's classic.
World as Killary, with a long history of getting her ass kicked by the Donald. And so all we can do is observe in quiet amusement as this gaggle of dipshits gazes on in collective defeat. A fitting spectacle, perhaps, for the ever-turning tides of political fortune. Here's to the rallying cry that echoes through the ages. Make America great again.
I love David Attenborough. Did a fine job there. Fine job. That was excellent. All right. So let's see. Trump was impeached because he asked Zelensky on the phone about the Biden family criminal cartel. Today, Joe Biden, as his final act in office, pardoned his entire criminal cartel family. They were criminals all along, and they tried to take Trump out for noticing. I think. All right, we're back. Can everybody hear me? I didn't notice when it glitched there. Was it glitched for long? I don't think it couldn't have been for too long. It couldn't have been for too long. All right, somebody let me know you can hear me. I know you can, but let me know you can hear. Nawada says I hear you. Okay, good. Excellent. All right. I think for this last part of the stream, we're going to cut off the YouTube now. We actually left the YouTube going long. The last two streams, actually, we actually had a lot of people on YouTube. We had almost 1,500 people on YouTube tonight, that's pretty good. But we're going to cut that off now because I'm going to do some ad reads, and there's probably some stuff that might get copyrighted if we keep going. So thank you to everybody who's watched on YouTube. We're going to continue on for another about a half hour or so on Rumble. So you can join us over there. The chat's great, and everybody's super friendly and nice. And reminder, if you're not subscribe to the channel right now. It's super important. There is a merch shop on YouTube you can go to. You can buy a t-shirt, Radio Baloney, mug, hoodie, whatever. We got merch now, so that's there. Hope to see you over on Rumble. If not, we will see you Friday night, 7:30. See you later.